Hi, I'm Bina Feldman, and on behalf of our leadership team, Diana Ginpill, Marianne Sakuti, Tamara Kolber, Shari Wirt, Joanna Wolfson, we want to welcome you back. Welcome back to our members and our guests. As we move into our third meeting this evening, we're feeling the excitement of a new group growing together with a common cause. We're receiving more nominations, and we encourage you to continue sending in your suggestions and seeking out causes in your own circle that would benefit from our donation. Of course, they have to be registered charities. It's wonderful to be part of a group that's making a difference in the community of Toronto Centre. Tonight, we have 3 excellent charities that you'll learn about shortly. Each one is so worthy in its own way. I'm sure it'll be a challenge to choose one that will receive our donation. And given government cutbacks, this money is substantial to a small charity, and it'll have an impact on the good work that they do in our own community. I want to keep you updated on our numbers, and right now we are pleased to say we have 74 members, so we're inching up every meeting. But we're still recruiting, so please continue to think of women that you'd like to invite to join us. And remember, they can come as guests to see what we're all about. Invite your friends, your acquaintances, your family members. The more women we have, the more money we will be able to donate to our worthy charities. We'd love to hear from you. So send us an email, tell us your feedback, your suggestions, your thoughts, and your ideas. That's the way we're going to build connections. Please keep in mind that the donation has to be made through Canada Helps within 7 days of this meeting. Your donation goes from Canada Helps directly to the winning charity. Our group never touches any of the money. Each member will receive a personal email tomorrow that with a direct link to the Canada Helps page on our website, and this will make donations very easy to do. Click on the link and follow the simple instructions. It'll take just a few minutes, and you'll receive your tax receipt from Canada Helps. A reminder that Canada Helps does have a small administration fee. So if you would, please consider covering that fee so all of your $100 goes to our winning charity. The results of our poll in last meeting showed that the majority of you preferred meeting on Zoom. So after our 4th meeting, this is our 3rd, after our 4th meeting when we are about 1 year in, we're going to be planning a casual meet and greet so that we can connect face-to-face and begin to develop relationships. We'll keep you posted on the date, the time, and the location. It's in the early planning stage. And if you have any suggestions for that meeting, please get back to us, let us know. We'd love to hear from you. Before tonight's charities present to us, our previous winner, Vahafta, will give us some information on how our donation was put to good use. So I'm giving you 5 minutes to tell us about what happened with the money we gave you.
Perfect. Thank you so much, everyone, for having me here today. And I'm sorry I didn't get a chance to meet with you last time. I know my colleague Robin came and she shared a little bit about Vahafta and the Building Foundations for Women's program that you guys have supported. I prepared a very short, under 5-minute presentation just to give you an update about how those funds were spent. So I'm just going to share my screen. Let me first do this. Screen 2 and presentation mode. So again, just to give you a little background. So we just graduated our first cohort. I added a little bit of a quote just to read out at the start. It's been a long time since I've had a reason to get out of bed, let alone actually or want to. I love the structure and purpose of my BFW program, gave to my days, as well as the support from my peers and all the Vahafta staff. I was so impressed by how helpful and understanding the case managers were. I was really comfortable opening up and never once worried about being judged. They were also so helpful and supportive and just wonderful in general. Again, just to remind you about the BFW program, it's a program we have in our work and life skills program, specifically for women who are looking to gain the work and life skills to reach one of 4 skills or goals, whether it's going back into the workforce, going back into education, seeking additional interventions, or finding meaningful volunteerism. So last year, 2022, at the end of the year, we had 74 graduates with a 92% positive outcome. Again, that means they've enrolled in further education, found employment, engaged in volunteering, or connected to other interventions. And this year, going into this year, our target was to enroll 100 women and graduate 90 of them. And of those 90, to have 90% achieve this positive outcome, 40% into education, 25% into education, 26% into interventions, and 9% into volunteering. Again, this is what you, the women who are joining us today, have supported our Building Foundations for Women program. We have just at the top of May graduated the first of 3 cohorts. So again, we have it 3 times in the year. And that means they've completed their 9-week core program. Following the 9 weeks, we have another 8 months of alumni programming where we continue the case management and we help them reach the goals that I set out before. So as I said, working with the graduates towards their next steps. So again, I want to thank you because the funds you spent went to things like the case management, like providing Chromebooks and internet access, providing stipends for when they join us and they aren't able to work because they're in the program. Those are some of the programmatic fees that your generous donations have helped cover. And again, some other quotes I found that might help illustrate, and these are all from the recent graduates, all these quotes. The journey that I've taken was one I wasn't anticipating. BFW helped me come out of the loop I was stuck in. I had stress, depression, pain, and self-doubt. BFW helped me come out and now very clearly, and a very clear head and lots of confidence. The forum gave me the confidence to express my views and opinions and helped me acknowledge that I'm important. BFW helped a lot in my personal life. I speak up for myself. I used to feel guilty about how people would feel, but now I speak up to myself and take care of myself. This has helped a lot. So again, everyone, I want to thank you. I welcome if anyone wants to get further involved in the organization, they want to volunteer with the organization, please visit us at vapta.org. You can always send me an email. I don't know if it goes around. You can always do info@vapta.org. It's the easiest one to remember. And yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you, Brandon. Thank you for that important follow-up. And it's great to hear how our donation has made an impact on our community. So thanks very much. Okay, now it's time to hear from our 3 worthy charities. Once again, I'm going to tell you that each charity will have 5 minutes to present, and I'll signal at 4.5 minutes that it's time to wrap up, and then we'll have 5 minutes for questions and answers. So I'll encourage everyone in the audience to write your questions in the chat, and our moderator, Marianne, will be reading the questions out to the presenters. Our first charity is the Aphasia Institute. I'd like to introduce you to Shannon Hill and Apshita Siddiqui from the Aphasia Institute. Shannon has been the coordinator of the program, the volunteer program at the Aphasia Institute for over 16 years. She lives in Toronto and enjoys the evolving growth and variety of experiences that are possible within the scope of the volunteer program. And supporting her this evening is Apshita Siddiqui. She is the Communications and Donor Relation Coordinator at the Aphasia Institute and has been with the organization only 5 months, where she's still learning about the incredible journey of people living with aphasia. Aphasia is a language problem affecting a person's ability to understand, communicate, read, and write. The Institute offers programs that help people learn to communicate in new ways and live successfully with aphasia. They also do family support, outreach, home visits, research, education, and training. So take it over, Shannon, and we'll look forward to hearing what you have to tell us.
Thank you. Great.
Sorry, can everyone see my screen? I feel like I'm sharing the wrong one.
You were right, Ipshita. You might want to go back to make it slide mode.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because on my end, it shows something else.
Yep, there we go.
Okay, all right.
Okay, perfect. All right. I'd like to begin by, first of all, I'd like to take you on a journey. I'd like you to close your eyes and picture yourself in a remote village in Italy. You're hearing the hubbub of a small town around you. You're wandering the streets, smelling smells that are amazing and new to you. But what's a little different is you're hearing language that you don't quite understand. You're hearing some words that make sense and some words that don't. You can read some of the signage, but not quite understand it. Someone turns and says something directly to you. You open your mouth to say what you think might be hello or yes, but nothing comes out. Ladies of 100 Women Who Care, you've just experienced a tiny little bit of what it's like to have aphasia. Aphasia is a problem with language, typically happening after someone has a stroke or may experience a brain tumor. It affects reading, writing, speaking, and understanding in varying degrees, depending on the severity of the injury. Often, people don't understand about aphasia because of the language. The language is broken or doesn't sound right. People can experience word-finding difficulties or perhaps be completely nonverbal. This communication breakdown touches every relationship in one's life. People with aphasia are competent, able to make decisions and think and have opinions. This competency piece is often masked by that loss of language. At the Aphasia Institute here in Toronto, it's our goal to help people with aphasia and their families to learn how to cope with this newfound reality. This newfound disability that may have interrupted a career, a job, an education, or perhaps forced an early retirement or completely blew away a retirement that was being anticipated. People with aphasia and their families are offered the opportunity for education to understand how to communicate, how to build some coping strategies and communication strategies through our variety of conversation-based communication groups. It's our hope that while we can't make the aphasia go away, we can make it more manageable and make it a little less of a barrier, hopefully building the confidence for our clients with aphasia. I'd like to tell you the story now of one of our former clients. Kai, a business executive working for a publishing company, was on a conference in Calgary. He woke up early one morning, as is his custom, to check his email, respond to some messages before starting the day. Didn't feel so great, got up, washed his face, and noticed that his right hand wasn't quite cooperating the way he would have liked it to. He experienced what he thought was a bit of dizziness. However, being the typical 42-year-old, decided he would move on with his morning and see how things go. Prepared to check his email, and when he looked at his computer screen, the letters were all jumbled. The screen looked normal, but not normal. The screen didn't make sense. Words were there, but he couldn't quite read them. Deciding maybe that it was time to go and get some coffee and see if he could start his day, he went down to the dining room and sat at a table. A server came over to him and asked how she could help. Opening his mouth, the word coffee was nowhere to be found. There was no speech coming out.
4.5 minutes.
Kai decided he needed emergency services were contacted. Kai began a huge journey of rehabilitation and recovery, which brought him to the Aphasia Institute here in Toronto. He attended our Toastmasters program. He attended several conversation groups and our creative writing program. After several years, he did return to his former employment, having regained some confidence in the ability to cope with his communication loss. At the Aphasia Institute.
Wrap up.
Thank you. At the Aphasia Institute, we don't turn anyone away. Aphasia impacts careers, jobs. The inability to pay is not a barrier. Though we receive funding through the Ontario Health, we are not able to cover all of our costs. 150 of our clients receive service on a daily basis through a variety of programs, which we then are required to make up funding for. So program funding is an ongoing source of need for us. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Shannon.
Great. Well, we do have one question, actually, a couple of questions from our audience here, Shannon. Margie is interested in where else you get your funding from.
We do receive funding through the Ontario government, Ontario Health, and we are also able to apply to some short-term grants to support some of the research and education that we provide. And of course, we do our own fundraising, which would include our annual appeal, an annual walk, and donations and legacy programs.
And Katie would like to know, what will you use this donation for specifically if you're successful this evening?
So as you can see on the screen, we do offer a variety of programming, both online as well as in person. I should point out we're offering a hybrid model at the moment. And so our programming cost in large part is for materials, supplies, our facility. We have a staff team of speech language pathologists, social workers, community and integration recreation specialist, staff support, and train our volunteers who deliver our programs. So we are relying on funds to support our community aphasia programming variety of programs.
And Roz would like to know, how do you train your volunteers?
Oh, love talking about our volunteers. So our volunteers receive a 15-hour classroom style training in what's called supported conversation for adults with aphasia. That's the toolbox of communication strategies that enable someone to partner and have a conversation with a person with aphasia. They're also, all of our programs where our volunteers are active, our programs are bookended by a preparation meeting and a debriefing. So on a weekly basis, volunteers connect with staff before the program, deliver the program, and then debrief. And of course, in every debriefing meeting, there's a learning opportunity there too.
And Dale and Diana wanted to know, how many clients do you have at one time and how long will people stay with your organization?
Great question. So at the moment, in our online programming, we can have anywhere from 35 to 55 clients attending conversation groups. Those groups would be potentially 5 to 6 clients per group, with 2 to 3 volunteers facilitating each group simultaneously. So approximately 50 clients per program. And second part of that question again?
Was just how long would people stay with your program?
As a client. So it depends. Yes. It depends on their life, their interests, and their needs. So Kai's story was quite unusual. We don't often see people returning to employment. That is a success story that does happen from time to time. We do have some clients who will join us for a short time following their formal rehabilitation and may decide that they can They've developed what they need in their own communication ability in order to return to or continue doing things locally for their own, in their own community or own interests. We do have clients who also stay with us for a very long time. We do become a community for our clients, a community that understands aphasia. And in addition to what you see on the screen and in our regular programming, we also offer events, outings, opportunities that are opportunities for our members, our clients to connect and volunteer in the community. So many different ways that they may choose to stay, and they may do as little as one bridge program a week, conversation group, or they may do programming 5 days a week. It's their choice. They do have a choice.
And that leads us into, I think what's probably going to be our final question here is, does aphasia ever get fully resolved?
Thank you for asking that. Aphasia doesn't go away. It's our hope that we can help people to develop some skill and some ability to advocate for themselves, to use some communication strategies, which might include some visual supports that you see on the screen there. It doesn't go away.
Thank you, Shannon. That's just about 5 minutes. I really appreciate this presentation, and we'll turn it now over to Michelle Delaney, and I'll tell you a little bit about Michelle and Thorncliffe Park Urban Farmers. Michelle has resided in Thorncliffe Park for over 15 years and started Thorncliffe Park Urban Farmers. She was highly aware of the food system and wanted to live a greener lifestyle. She saw an opportunity to bring more garden space to the community and develop a project that addresses community building and food security in a low-income, high-rise community. Thorncliffe Park Urban Farmers is a community group that creates residential gardens in low-income neighborhoods where residents get involved and grow their own culturally appropriate food. They've created a local, sustainable food system while tackling the growing food insecurity problem. So thank you, Michelle. And please begin.
Everyone can see my screen?
Mhm.
Yes, okay. Hi, I'm Michelle Delaney. So over 10 years ago, I was learning about the food system and I wanted to live a more eco-cautious lifestyle. So initially I thought I could grow my own food to be aligned with my lifestyle goals, but quickly discovered long waiting lists at the 2 existing community gardens, and rightfully so, because Thorncliffe Park is home to 30 to 35,000 people. Our street is no longer than 2 kilometers, so it's a very highly densely populated high-rise community with very little green space. I was looking out my apartment window, pondering on life, thinking that this space behind the parking lot, looking at the space behind the parking lot, and I envisioned a garden. I've never done any community work before, and I was able to gather support, and the stars aligned, and I created a resident-led group called Thorncliffe Park Urban Farmers. It's now been over 10 years, and this is what that space in the previous slide currently looks like. In addition, we created and managed a second quarter-acre garden at 53 Thorncliffe Park Drive. Local residents volunteer to tend to these gardens, and they get to take home fresh organic produce for free. Between the 2 gardens, we grow over 1,500 pounds of food on an annual basis. So I'd like to say these gardens serve our community as a living food bank. The produce gets spread out to approximately 100 families consistently for a 6-month period of the year. In 2020, we planted 30 fruit trees scattered between 9 different high-rise buildings, and it will only take a few more years before these trees fully mature, where they will be producing thousands of pounds of fruit, creating possibly the only edible community in Toronto and maybe even in Canada. We grow a variety of vegetables to educate that there's more in the food system than the same few varieties of produce that we typically see in our grocery stores. We focus on vegetables that are culturally appropriate for our diverse community. There's numerous different vegetables, everything from cucumbers, Swiss chard, Italian long squash, potatoes, chilies, and the list goes on. Everyone's involved. Everyone from the moms, the grandparents, kids, youth looking for high schools, even the men. Every type of person that lives in Thorncliffe Park have all been through these gardens to lend a hand and be involved. And I mean everybody. We do so much more than just garden. We collaborate with different organizations to host art and writing workshops. We've hosted day camp kids over several years, invited countless elementary classes, and been invited into their classrooms. We are currently hosting classrooms from Fraser Mustard Early Years Academy for hands-on gardening education. We've even hosted corporate events, CD Sundays, and every year we are sure to host a harvest party where we have well over 100 attendees. Starting last year, we've been expanding our gardens by converting lawn space on high-rise property into pollinator gardens. We hope to become leaders in changing the urban landscape. We have introduced over 80 different species of native plants and flowers into our gardens. So this has been attracting pollinators that are not typically seen on high-rise urban environments. Our youth group has approached us with the idea of conducting a pollinator study in the garden. They are interested in keeping track of the numbers and different species of pollinators that come to visit our gardens. We will be planting a section of the garden that will have 5 different types of milkweed. And I'm not sure, but other than visiting a botanical garden, where else do you get to see such diversity so close to home? Our goal is to have these gardens become educational spaces for our local schools and residents. We feel it's important to have the youth involved because Thorncliffe also has the highest number of children in any community across Canada. For several years, we've been hosting a youth green team. So currently we are working with over 20 students from Marcono Collegiate, Don Mills Collegiate, and Leaside High. And we've been conducting woodworking workshops with kids and the Toronto Police.
You're at 4.5 minutes now.
Okay. A garden seems like something basic or even something simple, but I can't express the impact that these gardens have had on my community in under 5 minutes. And I can't even start to tell you the personal stories that are of community building and personal development that volunteers have shared or experienced with me over the years. But I can assure you that these gardens have empowered so many women, youth, including at-risk youth and even seniors. And I feel so blessed to listen to my own spirit when I was looking out my window so many years ago, not knowing where this journey would take me. And I'm hopeful that our community will be known for something truly unique and inspirational for others. Thank you so much.
Wow. Thank you, Michelle. That was great. Let's turn our attention to questions from the audience now.
All right, so it's a great presentation. We've got questions coming in. Whether is Thorncliffe Park Urban Farmer the recipient of tonight's contributions? Leslie Solomon said she's urging everyone to visit. The neighborhood is immediately adjacent to Midtown. So that's, I didn't realize it was open to the public. And Carol asks, what would the money be used for if you're successful tonight?
Definitely working with our youth program. We would like to use it for materials, for art supplies. I have a goal to keep on creating an outdoor classroom. We'd like to do a mural on a beautiful fence that we have. And we'd like to put some an outdoor whiteboard so we can like host the classrooms and do true education out there. And of course, plants, soil, materials. And then to keep expanding onto different lawn space and our garden space.
So there's twofold here with your project. It's not only to feed, but to educate.
Exactly.
So do we have any other questions for Michelle?
Marianne, there's one a little bit higher up from Carol. She's wondering
Oh,
how
sorry.
the families that benefit from the garden are selected.
How do you choose
Okay.
families?
Yes, sorry.
How do we choose them? They just whoever shows up. So I have some gardeners who have been gardening with me for the full 10 years. They are fully committed. They get a lot of harvest because they're in the gardens all the time. But then they also share between their neighbors. I also share between my neighbors. Sometimes people only come one time in the season and they still get harvest. So we try to share to everybody as much as we can. There have been times where I have extra harvest and I just go into the lobby and I just kind of do open season.
And Margie would like to know, what are the other sources of funding that you have?
Currently, we do have one of the landlords that helps us, and Toronto Foundation helps us. And then we have been a recipient of the Pollinate TO.
Okay. And we have a question here asking, do you have any paid staff or is this all volunteer?
Myself and one other person, we are paid staff. It's small paid, but yeah.
Okay. And Sherry is curious to know, what's the most popular item people want to grow?
Cilantro.
Cilantro.
Yeah, our community really loves cilantro, so we definitely have to grow cilantro. We grow a lot of amaranth, surprisingly. Amaranth is not really popular for our culture, but it's really, really popular in the South Asian culture. And Italian long squash and bitter melon.
Interesting. It's diverse as your community.
Definitely.
Well, I need some hints on how to grow cilantro because mine never grows.
Okay, thank you so much, Michelle. That was
Thank you.
great. All right, we're going to move along to our third and final charity, Urban Squash Toronto. And our presenter is Brent Adamson. Brent Adamson is the Executive Director of Urban Squash Toronto. With an original passion for the sport of squash, Brent joined Urban Squash Toronto 9 years ago as the coach and quickly found his greatest passion, empowering the community. This is an after-school program, 7 days a week, year-long, education and athletic program supporting underserved youth in the Jane Finch corridor. Their goal is to ensure their students graduate high school and pursue a post-secondary education. They have intensive athletics and tutoring starting in 2010 and modeled after a successful US program with 94% of participants earning a postgraduate degree. The Toronto initiative now includes over 90 students from 8 different schools. So take it away, Brent.
Thank you, everyone. I appreciate you taking the time and the intro. So my name is Brent Adamson. I'm the Executive Director of Urban Squash Toronto. We are an organization right in the heart of Jane and Finch community. Our actual facility is in Downsview Park. This is our 13th operational year, and we are a member of a network of a US program that started 29 years ago in Boston, but we are the only chapter in Toronto. It is a network of sharing best practices, all with a common goal to use sport to empower students in underserved areas. So what we do is we take a holistic approach to programming. And those 3 pillars are academic enrichment, character development, and squash training. We go through all of these opportunities that we provide to our students completely free. And how it is, it's delivered through programming in person at our facility. Students are transported from our 8 partner schools directly to the facility. When they get there, they will spend half the time on a squash court and half the time in a classroom. On the squash, we try to squash sides. We try to teach life lessons and healthy active living, and really use sport as a tool to learn these life lessons. And in the classroom, we have a full-time academic tutor. We have a number of partnerships with libraries and different other educational partnerships to help our students really with their homework. The goal is that we will improve our students' grades each year they're in the program. Students start in grade 6, and the intention is to keep the students all the way until grade 12. Along the way, we also emphasize character development. How we do that is through all of the things in the center there. So it's really about workplace readiness programs. We help with their academic guidance along the way. We help with their university education and even their applications. We try to do internships, mentorships. The whole point is to remove barriers to graduating high school and pursuing post-secondary of their choice. The program is developed in such a way that we provide all the opportunities, but students are really the ones that do the work. So our goal is to have 100% high school graduation rate, and I'm proud to say in 13 years we have maintained that. That is comparison to the TDSB average of 86%. Because we've achieved that goal of 100%, we've now moved on to saying we want to have a post-secondary rate of our students attending programs, and we've done that at a 92% rate, and that's compared to the Jane and Finch residents who hold 39% hold a post-secondary degree. You can see here we have a number of, we serve a daily meal, and we also have about 600 hours of training and 600 hours in the classroom. Over 80% of every dollar goes directly towards our program delivery. So who is our community? Our community are Jane and Finch students. We currently have 108 registered in the program. Alumni, now that we've had 5 graduating cohorts, have gone to a number of high-profile schools that you can see on the screen here. And I want to tell a little bit of a story about Firdaus. Firdaus is here on the right. She graduated a few years ago. She joined our program in grade 6. I can remember as the squash coach training her in the morning and actually taking her to school back then. She now is at Middlebury College on a full scholarship and on the varsity squash team, which is worth about $75,000 US a year. At a young age, she was diagnosed with scoliosis, and as strong as she is, managed to really have a successful career in squash, and she's currently going into 3rd year in Middlebury. At risk of using too much of my time, I wanted to share a quick video because it was quite something special that Firdaus was able to accomplish. I'm going to show 10 seconds of it, but this is actually Firdaus teaching Michelle Obama how to dance at a conference that she attended. So I won't take too much time and talk about what where the funding will actually go. So over the last number of years, the Toronto District School Board has had an increasing relying on digital learning strategies and utilizing tools such as Google Classroom, and the trend only accelerated through the COVID-19 pandemic. We didn't miss a day.
Minutes are up. So
Thank you. We didn't miss a day during the pandemic, and we offered virtual programming. But now the students are in the classroom, and we're understanding that the students need a working computer, adequate internet connection, computer skills provided to us at our program. So the classroom is currently in need of 10 laptops to be able to help with the daily activities. That'll be with homework, with our workplace readiness programs. And you can see on the screen here, 100% of the donations that we would receive from this group, if we are successful, will go directly towards supporting that program and buying laptops. And with these results on the screen, there's also a pro bono sponsor or a partnership that we've been able to achieve with FC Skills and Fair Chance Learning, in which our students will actually use these computers to get certified in Microsoft Skills programs. Thank you.
thank you very much. That was terrific. Wow. We have now, we'll open it for questions.
Hi, Margie's asking, what percentage of the students actually last the full 6 years of your program?
I would say it ranged over the years. This last year, we are very proud to say that 98% of our students came back from the previous year. It is the highest we've ever had, but over the history, we've averaged about 80% of our students that start in grade 6 will graduate for grade 12.
Grade 12. And how many of the participants are boys and how many are girls?
We are about 50-50, actually. We were historically heavily weighted towards male students, but we're about 50-50 now after our latest recruitments.
Okay, and Jackie's curious as to where your funding comes from.
Really primarily individuals. We've had some success. The only government funding we've ever received was during the pandemic, some on the relief sides, but we do 2 major events a year. We do an annual gala as well as a golf tournament, but the rest is really individuals, heavily funded by the board, and a few grant and foundations when we can be successful.
All right, and Michelle was curious as to how you choose the students that join your program.
Yeah, so we actually directly recruit in our partner schools. So we go in once a year and basically see every grade 6 and grade 7 class. And we try to show them as much as you can show squash in a gym. We say it's like tennis, but you're on the same side of the court. We try to tell them, it's free, completely free to all programs. There's educational help. We tell the student, go tell your parents that. And actually, this is the first year that we had to actually set a limit on the number of the cohort that we were recruiting. So it's been highly successful to get students.
Sherry is commenting that this is an awesome program, but why squash?
So because we were modeled off of the US program, they were able to show a long history, 28 years of it, of using squash not only as a skill to play and as a fun thing to do and really act as a carrot on a stick to get the students into the program, but it also was something that they could take with them into the world and be part of a greater community that they otherwise wouldn't necessarily have access to, particularly in North America. Squash is really hidden behind, high initiation fees and affluent clubs. So that's why we provide that. It also, as we can see even from our success, it's much easier to get a scholarship to a school in squash than it is necessarily in hockey or some of these other programs. So I think there are historical results to say that this can really take you to the next educational level.
And on my own, I'm curious to know, what are the criteria for admitting students into the program?
So the only criteria is that you consistently show up. You do not need to be good at squash. All you need to be able to show and demonstrate is that you will participate, attend the program, you will put effort into your studies. And as long as you continue to do that, you're able to be in the program. The goal is not to create high-level athletes. The goal is to create thriving members of communities.
And Katie was interested in how many volunteers you have.
Yeah, so we have, if you include our former students, we have about 12 currently. We had more prior to the pandemic, and unfortunately some didn't come back over some time. But including our previous students that come back and volunteer, it's about 12.
Okay, I think that's the end of our questions. If nobody has any other questions.
Thank you so much, Brent. That was terrific.
Thank
Wow,
you.
we have a big job ahead of us to vote now, and it's time to vote. But before we do that, since only members can vote, we're going to be putting our speakers and our guests in a breakout room. Once we've all voted, we'll bring them back and they'll join us to hear the results. So for